Listen, you believe that thinking positive all the time is the key to manifesting your dream life. You think good vibes only is the spiritual path. That's completely not true. That's the worst spiritual advice you can get. It's a lie sold by people who never did the real work. Your subconscious knows you are lying to yourself. It knows when you are just repeating phrases you learned somewhere. You can't build a stable foundation by blindly following this advice. You're going to fail if you keep doing this. And I learned that the hard way. I tried to always think positively. I ignored my sadness. I pushed away any negative thought. I thought that was the way to get to higher level. But I was wrong. I was running away from the lesson I needed to learn. I was avoiding the deep inner work that I had to do. And your subconscious understands that. It knows you don't truly believe what you are saying. You are just performing. You are pretending. And that performance will completely destroy your life if you don't stop, right? So let me tell you why positive thinking is actually BS. First thing is that you can't get to know yourself without feeling the negative. You think you are being spiritual by ignoring your anger, your sadness, your frustration. But you are not. You are just doing spiritual bypassing. That's when you use positivity to run from the necessary work. You're using light to avoid the darkness. And true growth requires facing the lesson, not avoiding it. I remember a time when I was forcing myself to be happy. I would wake up and say affirmations. I would ignore any feeling that wasn't positive. But deep down, I was miserable. I wasn't dealing with my real problems. I was just putting a band-aid on a wound that needed surgery. And that's what happens when you practice toxic positivity. You build no stable ground. You are living on a foundation of sand. The first strong emotion that comes along will wash it all away. The second thing is that your subconscious is smarter than you think. It recognizes when you are just repeating learned phrases. It knows the difference between a genuine feeling and a forced one. When you say, I am abundant, but you are actually stressed about money, your subconscious feels that disconnect. It creates internal conflict. And that conflict will manifest in your life as more stress, more anxiety, more of what you are trying to avoid. You get the point? Spiritual bypassing is the biggest trap in the self-help world. It makes you feel like you are making progress because you are saying the right words. But you are not doing the real work. You are not integrating your shadow. You are not facing your fears. You are just pretending they don't exist. And pretending doesn't make things disappear. It just pushes them deeper into your unconscious, where they have more power over you. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. Now, let's talk about how this actually destroys your life. I'll give you 3 examples from my own experience. First, career. A couple of years ago, I started working with marketing clients. I tried to convince myself I loved it. I kept saying things like, be grateful, you are doing marketing, your dream field. Even though, deep down, I hated waking up at 7 a.m. to answer clients and constantly chase their approval. I pushed away the frustration and pretended everything was fine. Because that's what positive people do, right? But the more I ignored how I actually felt, the more disconnected and unmotivated I became. I was living a lie, and that lie started to affect my work. I wasn't creative anymore. I was just going through the motions. The lesson here is that positivity isn't the solution when something is misaligned. honesty with yourself is. You need to acknowledge when something isn't working. You need to feel the frustration to understand what needs to change. If you just cover it up with positive thinking, you'll never fix the real problem. You'll just burn out. Second example, relationships. There was a period in my life when I constantly questioned everything. My purpose, my place in this world, the meaning behind things people usually don't think twice about. I often shared my thoughts openly, even the uncomfortable ones. But instead of being understood, I started getting labeled as too negative. All I wanted was to understand myself better, to explore my inner world. But after a while, I stopped sharing because I felt that every deep or critical thought would be seen as something dark or wrong. Toxic positivity makes real self-reflection seem negative. It makes questioning seem like the problem. But questioning is how you grow. It's how you discover who you really are. When you are in an environment where only positive emotions are allowed, you start to suppress parts of yourself. You start to hide. And that destroys your relationships because you are not showing up as your authentic self. You are showing up as a filtered version that you think people will accept. And that's not a real connection. That's a performance. Third example, spiritual practice. In the beginning of my spiritual journey, I really believed that positive thinking alone could change everything. I repeated affirmations, tried to keep my vibration high, and ignored any emotion that didn't feel light or happy. But after some time, I realized that you can't reprogram your subconscious just by operating at the conscious level. No matter how many positive thoughts you think, real transformation happens only when you face what's hidden beneath. The fears, the beliefs, the patterns that actually run your life. This connects to the Hermetic Principle of Correspondence. As within, so without. The outer world mirrors what you suppress internally. If you are suppressing anger, you'll attract situations that make you angry. If you are suppressing sadness, you'll find reasons to be sad. Because the universe is reflecting your inner state back to you. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to be happy and expect your life to become happy. Your subconscious knows the truth. And it will keep creating circumstances that force you to confront what you're avoiding. That's the game. The lesson here is that true growth isn't about avoiding the dark. It's about bringing light into it. You have to go into the shadows to find what's hidden there. Your power, your authenticity, your true self. It's all in the parts you are being taught to reject. And toxic positivity teaches you to reject those parts. It tells you that negative emotions are bad. But they're not bad, they are information. They're a blueprint for your growth. Anger shows you where your boundaries are broken. Sadness reveals what you truly value. Fear points to where you need to develop courage. So if you are practicing toxic positivity, you're destroying your life in three major ways. In your career, you're staying in misalignment and heading towards burnout. In your relationships, you're building connections based on a false self, which leads to loneliness. And in your spiritual practice, you are preventing real transformation by avoiding the necessary shadow work. You're stuck on the surface. And the surface is where the waves crash the hardest. You need to go deeper. You need to build your foundation on the truth of who you are, not on who you think you should be, right? So, If toxic positivity is the problem, what's the solution? It's not about becoming negative. It's about understanding the real power of your shadow. This is where most people stop. They hear shadow work and they think it's some dark, complicated thing. But it is actually simple. It's about wholeness. Carl Jung talked about the shadow. It's the unconscious part of ourselves that we reject or hide. The parts we think are bad or ugly or unacceptable. But here's the secret. Your shadow holds the key to your authenticity. It holds the key to your real power. Because everything you reject in yourself, you project onto other people. You see in them what you refuse to see in you. That's why you get triggered by certain behaviors. They are mirroring your own shadow back to you. This connects directly to the law of polarity. Everything in life has two sides, light and dark, positive and negative. You can't have one without the other. They are two ends of the same stick. Trying to only experience the positive is like trying only breathe in. You'll suffocate. True alignment, true spiritual power comes from integrating both sides, from accepting the full spectrum of your experience. Your negative emotions are not your enemy. They are actually a blueprint for your growth. They're feedback. If you feel anger, it's not a sign that you are a bad spiritual person. It's a sign that a boundary has been crossed. It's showing you where you need to stand up for yourself. If you feel sadness, it's not a vibration you need to raise. It's revealing what you truly value, what you've lost, or what you deeply care about. Your shadow contains the exact instructions for what you need to heal and integrate. The goal isn't to eliminate your shadow. That's impossible. The goal is to bring it into the light, to make the unconscious conscious. When you do that, you reclaim the energy you've been using to suppress it. That energy becomes available for your creativity, for your life, for your spiritual work. You stop fighting yourself, you become whole. And from that wholeness, you can manifest a life that is truly aligned, not one that is based on a performance of alignment. You get the point? Okay, so how do you actually do this? It's not complicated. You don't need to go into a cave for a month. You can start right here. Here are the 3 practical steps. Do this in the next 24 hours. First, get a journal and write down this prompt. What am I currently pretending to be okay with, but deep down I'm not? Be brutally honest. Don't spiritualize your answers. Don't say, I'm okay with my job because it's a lesson. No, if you hate your job, write, I hate my job. If you're resentful towards family member, write it down. This is not about judging yourself. It's about acknowledging the truth. That's the first step. Honesty. Second, sit in silence for just 10 minutes. Set a timer. And during that time, your only job is to allow whatever emotions come up to exist. Don't try to change them. Don't try to fix them. If you feel sad, let yourself feel sad. If you feel angry, feel the anger in your body. Notice where you feel it. Your chest, your stomach. Just observe it without judgment. This practice teaches your nervous system that it's safe to feel these emotions. You're not going to be destroyed by them. This is how you stop running. Third, set one small boundary. Just one. Where have you been saying yes out of guilt or fear? Maybe it's taking on an extra task at work that you don't have time for. Maybe it's agreeing to meet a friend when you are exhausted. The next time that situation comes up, say something simple like, I need to check my schedule and get back to you. Or just, no, I can't do that today. That single act of honesty is shadow work in action. It's you honoring your true feelings instead of betraying yourself to look like a nice person. These three actions bring light into the darkness you've been avoiding. They start the process of integration. You're not trying to become a perfect, positive person. You're trying to become a real, whole person. And that is a much stronger foundation for anything you want to build in your life. So, here is the only way forward. Healing doesn't happen by thinking positive. It happens by being honest. You don't raise your vibration by avoiding your darkness. You raise it by integrating it. That's the only way to build authentic spiritual growth. Anything else is just a performance. And your subconscious knows the difference, right?